Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns, as we are recording this, you can find everything from 1.5 all the way to 2.5 in favor of Cincinnati. 47.5 is your total. Guys, we talk about this each and every week on the podcast. If you're new to us, by the way, thank you. Everything we do is absolutely free. So if you want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, we do appreciate all of your support. I go through, there are games that I just cross off the list like right from the beginning. And this was one of the very first games I crossed off the list. Cincinnati on the road in Cleveland. I think the Browns are going to be better this year, but I don't really know. I think Joe Burrow's healthy. I don't really know. It was really weird the way that Cincinnati played that, where it was kind of like, oh, he's hurt. We carted him off. And then we don't say a word about it for 3 weeks. And then he just shows back up at practice. You know, he is Jesus H. Burrow. And so he just shows back up at practice and there he is and he's ready to go. And now he's the richest guy in NFL history. So many unknowns for me here, Steven. I can't get there. I'm very interested in this one. Will be on the main TV for me because, again, I think Cincinnati, I think this line is really, really good. I think what they went out and did in the offseason pretty much all the way around. I mean, losing Bates obviously was not great for this team, but outside of that, I think that their roster is as talented as just about any team in the NFL. And Orlando Brown only makes this even better for the left tackle position for Joe Burrow. But the calf injuries are weird. You can push off one extra, like one time or scramble and it can hit back up. I don't know. There's just too many things I don't know. I'm going to be a big time fan of this one, but I'm not going to be betting it.
Browns defense has certainly had Burrow's number too in the last couple of years. Last season, Burrow did not throw for 250 yards in either game against Cleveland. A couple of picks. Year before, he had no touchdown passes and 2 interceptions in the only game he played against Cleveland. He was sat out the other one in week 18. So if you're going by recent matchups, and there's a lot of carryover on these rosters, that's why I mentioned that. The other side of this too, I agree with you. Don't really like when a quarterback doesn't get a ton of reps in the preseason, especially when it's injury related. So, we've seen the Bengals, similar to the 49ers, stumble early in September and then turn it on and get things clicking, including losing to Cooper Rush a year ago, the backup Cowboy for the Dallas Cowboys. And then, but on the flip side as well, I'm not ready to back Cleveland with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. I agree that the rest of this roster looks really strong, but something this is just totally narrative based by me. You guys can shoot holes in it if you want, please, by all means, if you disagree. But just something with the reporting out of Cleveland with how he's looked in the offense and meshing with Kevin Stefanski's system. Despite now having an entire offseason, we still have not gotten a lot of positive reports about Deshaun Watson running this offense. So I'm not just assuming that we're going to get prime Houston Texans Deshaun Watson now at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, me neither. But the thing is, I just don't know. And so because I don't know, that's why I don't want anything to do with it. Adam, if we look, I mean, again, if we're talking about on paper, we know Cincinnati's roster is loaded, but if you look at the Brown side of things, there are players on the defensive side of the ball. Of course, Myles Garrett is still over there. You have Newsome, you got Ward, you got Thornhill and Delpit. I mean, there are some players on that side of the ball for sure. And then on the offensive side, yes, question marks around Watson, but no question marks around Nick Chubb. No question marks around this offensive line that's going to be really good. And then David Njoku had a rebirth season last year. Amari Cooper is Amari Cooper. He's going to be a top 12-ish receiver in the NFL no matter what. And if you believe beat reporters, Elijah Moore really came alive in the training camp this year as well to give him yet another weapon. What do you look at in this game? And just while we're at it, because we didn't get you on some of the preseason pods, what do you think of this Browns team kind of overall, and what do you think of them as we move forward?
So I'll take you a little bit inside how I do my stuff preseason and kind of try to measure where am I versus where the rest of the market is. I go through and I'll do my power ratings. I consume plenty of off-season stuff. I read a lot, podcasts and so on, but I try to be as agnostic as possible when I go through and do my own initial numbers. and I found myself right on the market with Cleveland, right? Like there are some teams that we're going to get to later on that I'm way higher and way lower on, but I think I'm just about in the right spot on Cleveland because of Deshaun Watson. That's it. I love the fact that we bring in a new defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz to work with this defense and hopefully get way more out of the talent than they did last year, because that was one of the bigger disappointments of the entire season was how bad the Cleveland defense was. But I think there's probably got to be some questions about not only Watson, but as Steven mentioned, the Stefanski-Watson marriage is not a new thing to have a discussion about here, right? Like we're talking about, is the guy under center versus is he in shotgun? Is he running RPOs versus, is he being asked to drop back and pass? There are some philosophical questions that I think make this an evaluation game that make it a great one to watch, because if you wanted to make a case to me for taking Cleveland plus 8.5, I would understand your case. If you wanted to lay it with Cincinnati on the road, I would understand your case. I'm not going to follow you with my bet, but I can understand the logic of where you're coming from in that case. So you mentioned the division of death. It obviously is right there for Cleveland to win this division, for Cincinnati to win this division, for Baltimore to win this division, and in a little black swan case for Pittsburgh to win this division as well. But this week in particular, how am I handling this game from a betting perspective? I think it's a props game. I think you can probably pull a few things out. I know this is going to sound a little bit on the jockey side, but how much do you think Joe Burrow is going to really be testing that calf out this week?
Yeah.
Right. I have a feeling that the instruction is going to be get rid of the damn ball. Do not run for first downs. Right now, the rushing prop is sitting 9.5. He would have to be taking off multiple times to get to that number in this game. I think you're going to see him throwing the ball away. So I think it's little spots like that you can look at here between Cleveland and Cincinnati.
Yeah. Listen, there's it's kind of one of those deals where I think for me, there is at least one element of known versus an element of unknown. So if someone said okay, here's $100 free, you have to bet it, I'd probably take Cincinnati because at least there is more known on that side to me. I know what I'm getting in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and all that. At least there's that. But I just, I think this is appropriate. I think the number is on. And so I'm just going to, I'm going to sit back and enjoy this.